Everdark, Episode 111. Just Ask. Earlier. Christian pulled away from Kaly's hand, which was cupping his cheek in a parody of affection. His skin crawled at the idea of this being who seemed to have no compunction over stealing souls touching him. His own soul was now included in that number, he supposed.
He's not really physically here, nor am I. Can I use that to my advantage somehow?
The gem seemed to have no doors. The floor was smooth and black. It almost looked wet as it gleamed, and in its reflective surface, the facets of the gem above him were shown as thin white lines.
How can I get out of here? I got in here somehow.
Do you like your new home? Kaly asked, arms crossed at the wrists behind his back. Christian's gaze focused back on Kaly's angelic face. He realized that this was likely his Artemis Eleusis body. He had the perfect Kaly hair, pale as spun silk with metallic sheen. It contrasted well with the black leather he wore from boots to the long coat. The lines of his face were almost delicate. Those pink lips were curled into an almost natural smile. Christian wondered who Artemis was when Kaly did not inhabit his body. Was Artemis still inhabiting that body? Or did Kaly simply store the bodies they used like cordwood, stiff and unmoving and unoccupied, until they returned to them? Or maybe Kaly kept a portion of themselves in all the bodies they inhabited, rather like a hive mind. There was so much he didn't know, and he feared that without that knowledge, he was in grave trouble.
I'm not staying here,
Christian said flatly.
And you do best to release me immediately.
Kaly's delicate eyebrows rose in amusement. Really? Would it be best for me to do so?
You can gain nothing by keeping me here. In fact, every moment you do, you will only anger King Damon more,
Christian said. He is already very angry with me. That smile grew slightly.
Anything to get his attention,
Christian prodded. That smile faded slightly, but then returned as Kaly nodded. I suppose that is what it must seem like.
It is what it is,
Christian stated.
Whatever else you think you're doing, it is quite apparent that you want Damon's attention. And if doing bad things gets his eye upon you, then that's what you'll do.
Kaly delicately shrugged his shoulders. I expected more from you, Christian. Christian wondered if antagonizing Kaly was the wisest course. He needed to find a way out, but somehow he thought Kaly leaving would somehow make that impossible. He didn't want to be alone in this empty space.
Balthazar will come. Damon will come. Julian will make sure of it. I will not be left here.
You look a little concerned, Christian. If the accommodations are truly not to your liking, well, they can't be changed. But perhaps if you amuse me, I might let you out. When I'm not using your body, Kaly said. Christian's heart slammed against his chest.
You can't do that.
Why would I waste good souls? All of the souls of all of the bodies that I inhabit I keep. Kaly patted over his heart. Christian guessed that there was a hidden pocket in Kaly's coat in the real world where he kept filled soul gems.
They'll know you're not me. Julian will know. Balthazar will know. Damon will know. We're nothing alike,
Christian stated. The thought of Kaly in his body, were they already in it, was appalling. He would feel his body was unclean forever after that. But worse would be if Kaly used it to hurt the ones he cared about. Those few that he had opened his heart up to. If Kaly hurt them, yes, perhaps. But even if they do, they won't be able to do anything to me because I'll be in a beloved body. Your body. And hurting me means hurting you, Kaly told them. But I think we're more alike than you know.
Why are you doing this?
Christian asked through clenched teeth. But instead of a smirk or sneer, Kaly's expression had gone curiously blank, as if this body was merely an avatar, and the Immortal had put down his controller for a moment. Christian's eyes narrowed.
What's going on here?
Christian took a step towards Kaly. Those silver eyes remained blank. The body did not move. He took another step.
I should try to access his mind. Make him tell me how to get out of here.
Christian knew that he had barely begun to use his Eiros mind control ability. As an Immortal, Kaly likely had faced far better than him and won. If he was as powerful and skilled as Balthazar, maybe he would have a shot. But without a lot of luck, and a hugely distracted Kaly, He couldn't see how he had any chance at all.
But he is distracted. Look at him. Maybe I can just get a hook into him while he's not paying attention.
But then Kaly's silver eyes focused on him. Kaly blinked. He had not expected Christian to be so close, obviously. Christian took a step back as Kaly said, "You know why I'm doing this. I didn't take you for a fool, Christian. Please don't play one."
Damon will come. He will stop you. Hurting me is a foolish thing. It will only cause you more grief.
Christian pointed out as he kept himself just out of arm's reach, but nearer than he had originally been. If Kaly grew distracted again, he would be ready. Not as much grief as it will cause Damon. There was a mirthless smile on Kaly's almost angelic face, but strain was there as well. Christian could see no cause for that strain in this place. Something on the outside must be going wrong for Kaly. That was good. Maybe it was Balthazar or one of the others. You are his fledgling's best friend. You are the fledgling of his best friend.
It causes you pain to think of Balthazar as closer to him than you, despite the fact that you're going up against him.
Christian pointed out.
Is he simply hurt that Damon prefers Balthazar to him?
Christian wondered.
Despite him saying that we're nothing alike, he reminds me a little of myself before Julian and I became friends.
What are you thinking? An uncertain smile played across Kaly's face.
I was just thinking that perhaps you're right, that we share some similarities.
Christian admitted. Really? What?
Before Julian, I had a hard time connecting with people.
Christian paused and licked his lips. He could still remember when Julian had stopped bullies at school that were about to attack him for simply looking at them funny. I can connect with people. I choose not to, Kaly answered. His voice was clipped.
I would have thought that you would have had thicker skin than you do. But perhaps, being an immortal, no one truly speaks their minds to you.
Christian said coolly. Kaly's cheek twitched.
Before Julian, I thought I was above wanting people to like me. If they didn't appreciate who I was, how I was, then that was their problem, and it meant that they weren't worth my time.
That sounds wise to me.
And it's true, to a certain extent. But I think we both know that it's not that easy or clear-cut, because people react to what they're presented with. If it's different, they are, I believe, hardwired to distrust it, or even dislike it, because difference means danger. Until they can be assured that such difference is safe, as acceptable, they retreat.
Then they will learn nothing new at all. Kaly responded softly.
Some of them won't. They'll remain afraid and will reject all differences. But there are some people, like Julian, and I believe like Damon, who are not that way at all.
Christian continued, watching Kaly's face to see if there would be another moment of distraction. But there was not. Kaly was very alert.
Not that they're naive or blind to danger, but they believe there's more out there that's wonderful than will hurt them.
Your Julian saved you from being alone? Kaly smirked.
Julian helped me to be open to new experiences and people. He liked me, and I realized it was possible for people to like me and for me to like them. I'm still particular about who I let in, but Julian helped me to get to this point. He makes me feel safe.
Christian said.
And that's how I imagine Damon made you feel.
Kaly's smirk did not twitch, but it was too stiff to be real.
But then he went away,
Christian said.
And you didn't feel safe. You felt betrayed, especially when the war began and Damon wasn't there to set things right.
You think this is about something as petty as being liked? Kaly's voice rose, not shrill, but high and sharp like fingernails dragging across a chalkboard. Being liked is for those who have nothing else to offer the universe. It is the pettiest of desires to be liked. Only the mundane are liked and count their worth by such things. Better to be hated. Christian smiled faintly.
But isn't that what we tell ourselves, because it protects us from believing there's something wrong with us?
Beads of sweat appeared on Kaly's brow as if he were in the midst of battle despite standing still. Christian held his breath. Something was definitely happening outside of here.
Balthazar?
Christian called, and realized he had been stupid not to before. But it was a habit from being human, a habit from not being able to talk mind to mind.
Balthazar!
There was a sound of crackling in his mind for a moment, but then silence. He stretched out his senses. Could he reach Kaly's mind? Just sense it, just a little. He felt a touch of pressure. Kaly's voice was a little breathless, but it was still cutting. Those who seek to have others like them are sycophants. I am not a sycophant.
From the immortals I've met, neither are they.
Christian pointed out.
Balthazar might have a clever tongue and a rakish attitude that attracts people to a certain extent, but he's been on the outside all his life. Seer is quite pleasant, but she tells people what they don't want to hear all the time. She doesn't couch it in euphemisms either, but tells the truth in a straightforward way. I believe Damon appreciates those things about both of them. He doesn't like them in spite of it.
He didn't mention Fiona as Wyvern, as he wasn't sure whether Kaly knew about her yet, but it was better to keep her true identity as a surprise for as long as possible. I see Damon's darkness, Kaly said, which seemed strange for this immortal to care about, as darkness appeared to be his stock in trade. Christian pushed his senses closer to the pressure of Kaly's mind. The words that Kaly spoke next were interspersed with strange images from another place. You have no idea the power he wields. He saw spears appearing in midair, and then flying towards him, thrusting into his body. Blood. Blood. He has been starved for millennia, yet see what he can do. Christian could not feel the pain. The spears, glass and razor-sharp, disappeared. Kaly, not a woman, another form, was restored. And then the spears were back. Imagine what he will be like when he is at full strength, and nothing can stop him.
He was at full strength in the past. You blame him for not using that strength,
Christian pointed out. Nausea racked him, and he was using all his strength to keep himself from throwing up. He reminded himself he wasn't in a body. He had no stomach, esophagus, or mouth. There was nothing inside of his spirit, nothing to vomit up. He was stronger then, true. But he was distracted because he could not make a fledgling, Kaly answered. His face was pasty pale. Sweat dripped off the end of his chin. It grew upon like an obsession over time, and so crippled him. Christian had to give him credit for keeping on his feet. The world was starting to sway for him.
There is no world, no floor, no ceiling, no nothing. I have no body here. Now he has Julian. But why do I have a feeling you'll criticize him for allegedly being distracted by having a fledgling now?
Christian let out a soft laugh that was filled with bubbling sickness. More images came.
More spears. I keep seeing them. They don't stop. And crazed laughter and... Balthazar!
In a way, you see, he will use that strength to keep Julian safe, at all costs. That makes him more dangerous rather than less. No longer distracted, no longer crippled, but desperate to keep one tender young man happy. Kaly mused, as he was shockingly steady despite being tortured. What will he do with the world to mold it into a place that will delight Julian?
I want to tell you about a completed werewolf romance story called Crimson. This was supposed to be a gay retelling of Little Red Riding Hood with werewolves. It didn't turn out that way, but it is a sweet and sexy tale of romance and found family. Here's the blurb. Gareth, alpha werewolf of the Cold Moon Pack, does not believe in mates. His friend went mad after his mate was killed, so Gareth resists love. But then he meets Jude Connor. Growing up an orphan, Jude experienced human cruelty and trusts no one. Still, he dreams of belonging to someone and being part of a family. Can he bring himself to trust Gareth and the Cold Moon Pack and make that dream a reality? Since this story is shorter at 47 chapters and not part of a larger story world, Crimson is a great place for new members to get started. If you do join us, I really hope you read this story and tell me what you think.
Julian doesn't need the world molded to be delighted.
Christian wiped cold sweat from his own forehead.
He finds happiness in most things. Even after you had his parents killed, he still found beauty and hope in the world.
Kaly would have noticed his distress, if not for being under so much of his own. And that's what brought you here, isn't it? You were looking for the Harrows. Kaly's pale eyebrow lifted even as his lips trembled. Clever,
Cameron helped me with the idea.
Christian said, wanting for some reason to lift up Kaly's fledgling, to show Kaly that Cameron was more than a puppet. Kaymorn is my fledgling. Of course I picked someone clever, Kaly said, claiming all of Kaymorn's good qualities as his own doing. Christian wondered if he claimed the bad as well. A strange light appeared in Kaly's silver eyes, and his voice almost became wheedling and strained, so strained. Do you know why you are a speaker to the dead? Christian strove not to frown. He merely shrugged.
Luck of the draw, I guess.
But Kaly shook his head, and that platinum hair glimmered in the low light of the gem. No, there was no luck in it. Do you know of Roan Tithe, Balthazar's master this time around? Of course he knew of him. Christian studied that almost impish expression on Kaly's face. The moment the idea came to him, it must have appeared on his face in some way.
The spears are back. Dear God, when will they end?
Kaly nodded, even as his face was bloodless and his lips kept writhing back from his teeth in agony. I realize you're aware that I can inhabit any body I like. I enjoyed Roan's. You know what's odd? I didn't realize who Balthazar was all that time. That he was my old nemesis, Iros. I just knew I hated him. Christian swallowed. Nausea roiled him.
Were you inhabiting Roan's body when you turned Balthazar?
Oh, yes. And that's why I think you are a speaker to the dead. It was a mixture of my bloodline and Iros's that created you, Kaly told him with a tremulous smile.
And the other speakers before me? How did they come about?
Christian asked, curious despite himself and the world spinning like a top. I've been having my fun in the other bloodlines from the beginning, though I haven't bothered myself to do it. I bet if you followed up, from fledgling to master, you'd find that I was always a part of that unique vampire's history. Kaly sounded quite pleased with himself. There have been anomalies in other bloodlines, too, which likely can be attributed to me.
You sound so proud.
Christian's vision was blurring, or so it seemed because the facets of the gem were moving. I am proud of all I've done. Another tremulous smile, and more sweat pouring down Kaly's face.
Can he even see me any longer? His voice sounds distant.
You should be grateful to me for what I'm doing, Kaly murmured.
Is he even talking to me? Or to someone else? Which is?
Christian prompted. Showing him that there are consequences when he rules unwisely or seeks to abdicate responsibility. Kaly's eyes narrowed, and it appeared he was seeing something else, not just Christian.
Who is he talking to? Balthazar? Balthazar, can you hear me?
Christian thought he saw a lightening of the darkness beyond the crystal's facet. Was that a way out? Maybe if he found the edge of the crystal that was lightest, he could... break it? He was in his spiritual form. He wasn't a physical entity here. But maybe the gem that he was seeing here was just a spiritual construct. Meaning if he thought he was breaking the gem here, then maybe his soul would be released from the gem. As idly as he could, Christian sidled towards the nearest facet. He slid his hands in his pockets, as if to appear like he was going on a stroll with no real object in mind. That was when he found the gem that contained David's soul.
There's not really a gem in my pocket here. I don't have pockets or pants. I'm a spirit,
Christian reminded himself.
But maybe this means that I can still call upon David here to assist me. But what could he do to help me against Kaly, or this gem? Do you take no individual responsibility for what you did? And what of the other immortals? Are they children who cannot be trusted without Damon's watchful eye on them?
Christian asked quickly, as he saw that Kaly was watching him again and not gazing at something or someone outside of this place. Covered in sweat and pasty pale, he was still formidable. He clutched the soul gem in his hand tighter still. Damon has told you that he is king, has he not? Repeated it constantly like some mantra, Kaly said with an almost faint smile on his face.
Yes, and it's obvious he's the strongest, so...
You do not understand. A sickly smile. And then Kaly continued, We are meant to be ruled by him. We need him. And once he extends his reach to all of the humans, they will need him too. He must be made to learn, Christian, or everyone will pay for it. And then in that moment, Christian heard Damon's voice clear as day in Kaly's mind. Iros my beloved friend, come back. Bring Kaly with you. I must end this." Their gazes met. Kaly realized that Christian had heard the words too. Desperation and an almost sick anticipation shone in his silver eyes. "Time to show Damon there are consequences," Kaly said, and then lunged. Christian's hand closed around the soul gem. It powdered to dust in his hand. But there was a light, something between him and Kaly. It distracted Kaly for a moment, long enough for Christian to stagger back away from him. The light resolved into a figure. It was David. Kaly let out a laugh as he realized what it was that was in his way. "A spirit! You are trying to use a spirit against me?" Kaly giggled then. That's an interesting tactic." David was still between them. He was as solid as both of them, because they were all three spirits in this place. "Let me help you, Christian," David said. Christian started. It was the first time he had heard David's voice in ages. It was shocking. "Oh, I don't think so. Here, I rule," Kaly cackled. "I know I did terrible wrong to you, and so many others," David said, "but mostly to you. I know that now, Christian, and I am so sorry. Please, let me help you." "How amusing. He thinks he can help you. An enemy, I see. Fascinating," Kaly stated. Kaly was completely grey, but he was still holding on, and Christian knew he was capable of doing something terrible. He would do something terrible. "Let me help you," David pleaded. "Let me make some amends. I know you will not forgive me, but let me help you this one time." "You'll help him by holding him for me," Kaly said. "No," David said to Kaly without turning towards him. Frown lines appeared on that perfect, yet sweaty face. "No?" "We're near the Well of All Souls," David said to Christian. "That makes me stronger," Kaly hissed. The gem was pulsing all around them.
That's Damon,
Christian realized. "Yes, but he won't get to you in time," Kaly said and grinned. "The Well of All Souls is an opening, Christian," David continued. "To the other side, and you, as Speaker to the Dead, are strongest here." Kaly and Christian stared at David and then at each other, like two duelists about to draw their weapons.
What weapons do I have? What can I do?
"All you need to do is ask," David said. "Just ask, Christian. Just ask us to help you."
Just ask?
Christian almost laughed.
Speaker to the dead. All the dead. They're...
"Here," David said with a smile and a nod. "We're all here for you. Just ask." "No!" Kaly screamed and lunged again. At the same time, Christian said,
Yes, help me.
There was the sound of glass shattering as the gem surrounding them broke apart. And the outside of that gem wasn't black. It was blue-white, the color of the ghosts. Kaly screamed as the spirits struck him again and again and again, lifting up into the air and holding him there. The ghosts pinned Kaly in place, kept him completely in place. He was going nowhere. David was standing there still between Christian and Kaly. "Thank you for letting me help, Christian," David said. Christian just nodded. His gaze was on Kaly. He was screaming, but the screams were silent. Behind him, Christian could see not blank blackness, not whiteness, but the star-filled sky of the Everdark. "I know you can't forgive me," David continued.
But you want me to.
Christian murmured.
If I give you what you want, will you leave?
"Do you want me to leave?" David asked. Christian grimaced.
If you are truly sorry.
"I could help you. I could tell you what I know," David cried.
David,
Christian said softly.
I am the speaker to the dead, not just to you.
David swallowed. "But
Release me, David. Go to the Well of All Souls and make your choice whether to be reborn or go on to the other side."
Christian said, but almost gently. David quivered. Christian waited. "You just want to get rid of me," David said.
I want to be free.
Christian told him.
Don't you want to be?
I don't know what awaits me," David confessed. "After all I've done, how could it be good?"
I doubt whatever awaits you is so simple.
Christian told him gently. "But it could be," David said. Christian felt a wave of sorrow for David.
It's time, David. You've done your best to make amends. Now you must go see what awaits you.
Christian didn't know if he believed that David would really leave. Even now, he thought David might try to avoid fate. But David nodded, surprising him. I am sorry, Christian, for everything, David said. Christian merely nodded. He did not feel the need to give forgiveness.
Goodbye, David.
David turned, looking at something that not even Christian could see, and took a step forward. He then disappeared in a burst of blue-white light. Christian let out a breath he hadn't known he had been holding for so long. His eyes then slid up to Kaly, still screaming silently. The whole of the gem was gone. There were trees. He was starting to feel something. Someone slapped his cheeks. It does not work like that, Iros, a patient voice said. He has the facet of Kaly quite secure. I'm impressed with him beyond all measure. But he is your fledgling, after all. Balthazar's voice floated over to him. But he's fine, Damon assured him. Christian, all you need to do is ask the spirits to bring you and Kaly back.
Just ask? That's all I need to do?
Christian laughed.
This is...
Just ask, Christian, Damon said. Can't you just bring him back? It was Balthazar sounding so desperate. He can do this, Iros. Calm yourself, Damon said. But...
I'm coming,
Christian said. He drew in a deep breath and asked the spirits.
Take us to Damon.
And the spirits obeyed. Join us next time for episode 112, Lord of the Dead.
If you don't think of yourself as that much of a reader, I understand. I don't think of myself as a typical author either. I'm a storyteller, and my only goal is to entertain you with exciting tales of romance and adventure, just like Everdark. I write what I like to read, and that's why you get hot heroes and badass villains, magical powers, fantasy worlds, and, of course, cliffhangers. It's a lot of fun for everyone, and I hope you decide to join in. The link to sign up is in the notes.